when I was 14, from the age of probably 14 into my probably late 30s, one of my very best friends, I won't name him, of course, was a black kid who was, his mother was white, who, ended up having a drug problem. When I met him, he lived with what he was just in the process of finding out was not his real father. And he was, he was mixed, but he looked black. He couldn't, the excuse his mom, I think, gave him was that he had a really dark skinned girl for grandfather, but she was lying. And he, it was awkward. He was a really, really the opposite of any kind of black stereotype. He was incredibly bright, incredibly intellectual. And his dad was, for lack of a better term, a very, very blue collar. He was literally a plumber, poor, all of that, not intellectual, not intelligent at all. So, I meet this really cool, awesome guy. We're best friends. And we did have a lot of conversations about race because he was in a really freaking weird situation regarding race. And, when did we meet? Probably like the early 90s when I started high school. And we would have talks. He would have talks with me about, it's weird to me because, am I really a black guy? I mean, I'm basically a white guy, just talking in terms of the way he talked and what his perception of it was. Everyone knows what someone means when they say that. I think he was the one, he called himself a Carlton at one point. And, he was lighthearted about it, but it really did bother him. And sometimes, and we were best friends and we did have a lot of talks about it. And it was, shaping for him in a lot of ways. There were times where we'd be having conversations and he was one of the smartest guys I knew. We would come to impasses where, maybe because we were good friends or because he was so smart and articulate, he would get through to me like, I don't know, man, it's something you're just not going to be able to understand. And he wasn't talking about like experiences that I wasn't seeing the same of him. He was talking more about the way that he felt, feeling out of place, wondering if people were being racist to him. Was he being treated differently by his own family? And, it turned out, as we got older, we realized he pretty much was. It was an interesting situation. So when I say I'm not a scholar in race, that's not what I went to school for. It is something that I've been interested in. It was something that was discussed. When I was in college, one of our assigned books was literally called The N-Word. I won't say it on your podcast, but I don't know if you're familiar with that book.
What's the book?
I can't say it. It's literally The N-Word.
That's the whole title?
Yeah. It's a scholarly book.
Oh, no. I know who you're I know who you're talking about. What's his name?
And this was, when I went to college, was late 90s, early 2000s. But, it's not something that I've never thought about. And I would definitely agree with you.
Even the story,
you've spent more time thinking about it deeply than I have. And I do, while I don't agree with you, I do respect that.
I appreciate you sharing that story about your friend because it actually like kind of highlights, I think, your friend. I mean, even the story you just told, you can't see that what the relationship between that story you told about your friend and why we might want to teach kids about racial hierarchy in school. Like, if your friend had no...
I mean, maybe I don't.
Okay, so I'm saying maybe if your friend had known, right, the history of race and how that has manifested in our society, that he would have realized the complexity of his situation at home. Like, of course, he's not going to think about it naturally. He's going to just assume, oh, these are my parents, yeah, but like, these are like just the people who are raising me. They're going to love me just like anyone else. Why would he think any differently? But it turns out that wasn't the case. He was being treated differently as a result of his race. So like, he might have been...
not by his father, and I mean, I don't know how racy your podcast... I mean, it's his father was a really nice guy, but his father was dumb, and I don't even mean that as a slur. He just was an unintelligent guy and it was just him and his dad. And then, eventually his dad got some girlfriend who wanted my friend out of the house, and he got kicked out over it. And his dad was a real bitch about it. Like, the guy had a really, really hard knock go of it. And, I'm not going to say no one was ever racist to him. That's, I'm sure, more than I even knew of. But racism wasn't a huge thing in his life. More what he was feeling so out of place because of like the norms.
That's the same thing.
Family.
I know you're separating those two things into different
No,
categories.
I think that was kind of why I brought it up because when you say it's the same thing, I can tell in some kind of way that you're like right and there's something you're getting at, but I don't get it. And that's
okay.
why.
That's all right. All right. I mean, that's fine. But like, I think that's what he was trying to tell you is that like, like that kind of, I do talk about it on my show. There's plenty of videos on YouTube where I talk about this, my own experience growing up with that same feeling. I do describe it. I describe specific situations. I talk about why we're positioned that way. Like, because that is a societal construct that positions us that way. That is the reason. It is something outside of us. It's our circumstance. And so that's what he was.
That one I don't disagree with so much. I think that's you're kind of on there. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, well, I think that we found a little bit of common ground here at the end, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, while we go back and forth, I did enjoy it. I really appreciate it.
No, me too. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. I can't pretend that I don't see like I appreciate your willingness, first of all, to have the conversation, and I appreciate your willingness to be open and honest about what you believe. I just find it so sad sometimes that people like you who care about others, who want the best for the country and for our youth and for people, I think that a lot of people who are anti-woke, if you will, or anti-CRT or anti this or that, you guys are going to end up realizing that you're working at cross purposes to your actual goals. And
how so?
Well, because again, I mean, I don't want to rehash it really, but like,
that's okay.
Ultimately, there are already systems of power in this context that already exist that people who are coming in with a new perspective, you guys are not taking that into account. So those systems that were already in place are going to rule the day. They're going to win. And so those systems are racist systems. Those systems are homophobic norms. Those systems are misogynistic norms. And those things are actually inadvertently what people empower when they stop people from trying to disrupt those norms. Those are the norms. Like, that was the norm that your friend was living under. He was living under that world where it was the norm to think of black people one way and white people another way. And so
I'm not going to say it's not still to some extent like that. I mean, it is.
I mean, you don't have to explain it to me, brother. I live as a black person, so I know for sure that people look at me in a way that I don't exist as. I mean, people will tell me I'm stupid even though I have 3 degrees. People will tell me that okay, well, people say it all the time. Literally all the time. And so all I have to be is black in order for someone to say that. That's the point. Just like people on social media said that guy was a DEI mayor, which didn't even make any sense, right? I'm sure you saw that. So
yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Yeah. Especially, I mean, I could be way off. There's a guy on Twitter that I just love reading what he says, and I really respect his kind of point of view. And he freaking hates communists like louder than anyone else I've seen on Twitter. And he posted a photo of himself hugging that mayor and said, I'm from Baltimore and I've known this guy for years, and he is not what you people are saying that he is. I mean, I didn't need to see that to know it was. It's the freaking mayor, dude. You don't hire the mayor anyway, and it's stupid, obviously. But I also think it's unfortunate because black people are not very much to blame for what it is that I'm taking issue with. it's black people are not, for the most part, very woke. Black people are not pushing
Brother,
for this stuff.
we invented woke. We literally invented the word woke.
Well, you invented the cool old version of woke. I'm talking about
it's still there's no old and new. We made it, and like just because Chris Rufo came out and said we're gonna change it, like we still use it the exact same way we've always used it, bro.
I'm old too, man. I know the evolution of the word, and
you can call it that if you want, but like I would call what's going on right now
what we call woke now is not the same thing as was meant in the 80s.
What I say it is. That's what I'm telling you. Is that like I haven't changed just because a propagandist came out and decided to rework it. Thanks for watching. For access to the full-length conversation and all of the 2-hour-long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support and see you next time.